Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam. Welcome back to our discussion on the 9th Thirumurai. We have already completed 15 Thirupathikam by Lord Shiva's grace. Now we are moving on to the 16th Thirupathikam. This is written by Karuvoor Thevar and to the place or the temple called as Thanjore Big Temple. Beautiful, real big temple. It stands tall and high even after 1,000 years. This is a symbol of Tamil Dravidian architecture, Dravidian culture and Dravidian engineering. It also portrays the beautiful love that Indian kings or the Tamil kings had, or the rulers who had so much of a devotion for Lord Shiva. This is a symbol that represents that every Tamilian must be proud of. That is the history, that is the beauty of Thanjore Big Temple. It's a must visit temple. Let's look at the very first verse from the 16th Thirupathikam. Tiruchitrambalam. Ulagellam thoza vandezhu kadir parudi ஒன்று நூறாயிரக் கோடி அலகெல்லாம் போதிந்த திருவுடம்பச்சோ அங்கனி அழகிதோ அரணம் பல கோலாம் படைசை நெடுநிலை மாடம் பருவரை ஞாங்கர்வன் திங்கள் இலை கோலாம் பதனத்து இஞ்சி சூழ் தஞ்சை ராசராசேச்சர தீவர்க்கே. Thiruchitrambalam. This place called as Thanjore has a beautiful temple called as Rajarajecharam, named after the king Rajaraja Choran who constructed this temple. This temple has a beautiful moat, as well as it has a lot of when we talk about palaces in those days, we had to protect the palaces with all the big campuses and all these. For this temple, it is considered as a full city itself. That is why they constructed beautiful campuses, campus around that, and they had it was all decorated with silver. That is what they say, that it looks as if the moon, because moon is white in color, right? So they say as if it's the moon that is being taken, and the light from the moon is reflecting. So to that extent, it was all made of silver. Right now we can't see anything, we can't even see the stones over there. To that extent, the corruption has taken over, but the temple stands tall and high. He says the beautiful verse here is, what is Lord Shiva's color? If someone is asking that, this particular verse, especially the first two lines, talks about that. He says, this entire world is ready to worship the sun, right? We all know sun comes early in the morning. It's not the full grown sun, but rather the sun that is just rising. So we know what kind of a reddish color it will be. That, which we call it as arunam. That color, if you can imagine, the color is from one particular sun. If we can imagine this as 100 crores beyond count, yeah? If we are able to imagine this one sun and you just extrapolate it to 100 crores, if you can imagine that color, that is what Lord Shiva's color is all about. You imagine just one sun coming up, we are not able to see. We are wearing our coolers, we are just closing our eyes and whatnot. We are not able to see the sun directly with the naked eye, even when it is just a simple sun, and that too it's so far away. Whereas here Lord Shiva is, you take this sun and you multiply this or extrapolate it with 100 crores, and that is the real brightness of Lord Shiva. That is his color, that is how he is. We can't even imagine, beyond imagination. So the place is filled with so much of brightness because the person who's there is so bright. So which means when you see brightness, it also means there is no darkness. No darkness means there is nothing evil in this temple. That is what they talk about as the very first verse and the second verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. நெற்றியில் கண்ணின் கண்ணின் நின்றகலா நெஞ்சினில் அஞ்சிலம்பலைக்கும் பொன் திருவாடியன் குடி முழுதாள புகுந்தன போந்தன இல்லை மற்றென குரவென் மரிதிரை வடவாற்று இடு புனல் மதகில் வாழ்முதலை நீர் கிடங்கின் இஞ்சி சுள் தஞ்சை ராசராசீச்சர தீவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse talks about the author's experience, but actually we will also be able to relate with this. When we saw Lord Shiva, he entered through our eyes into our heart and his stay put over there. Did he go out? He doesn't know to go out, because according to Lord Shiva, everything is one-way traffic for him. He only knows to come in. He doesn't know how to go out. His beautiful lotus feet is there in my head, in my heart, and my entire lineage has been taken over by Lord Shiva. So he's there forever in me. I don't need to worry. I don't need to ask for any other relationship. Whichever relationship we are able to visualize with Lord Shiva, he will take that form. If you want him to be your dad, he will be in that form. If you want him to be your mom, he will be that. If you want him to be your son, daughter, whatever, even our master, he will take that form. That is the beauty of Lord Shiva. Even if we want him as our servant, he will be willing to do that, because Lord Shiva knows only one thing: love. When we show unconditional love to him, he will also, actually he is the one showing unconditional love. We are all having conditional love only, but when we are able to surrender ourselves, that is where he will show his unconditional love to us. That is what verse number 2 talks about. And he says that Rajarajecharam, this particular temple, has a lot of crocodiles out there, because there's a lot of moat over there, and because of the moat there are crocodiles, and it's a beautiful place filled with natural resources and at the same time natural beauty as well. And in this, Lord Shiva stays in an even more beautiful manner. That is what verse number 2 is all about. And the third verse, the verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. சடை கெழு மகுடம் தண்ணில விரிய வெண்ணில விரிதரு தரள கூடை நிழல் விடை மேல் கொண்டுல போதும் கூறிப்பேனோ கோங்கிணரனைய கூடை கெழு நிருபர் முடியோடு மூடி தேய்ந்து உக்க செஞ்சுடர் படு குவையோங்கு இடை கெழு மாடத்து இஞ்சி சுள் தஞ்சை ராசராசீச்சர தீவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். As we already said, this particular place called as Thanjore, there's a very big temple. That's why it is called as a big temple. Thanjore big temple is where this particular pradikam is sung for. Here, the entire place is filled with all the precious stones and the gems. This has fallen off the crowns from the kings as well as from the devas who have come to visit Lord Shiva in this place. Because of the density of that place, they had to hit against, as in it's so crowded, and because of the crowd, one crown with the other is, they have this, it's hitting against one another, and because of that, there is a lot of gems that has fallen off. Here, Lord Shiva is there to give his grace to the devotees. He is in the form of everything. He is having everything in the form of white color, because white represents Satvik. We all know there are three qualities that we always talk about: Satvik, Rajasam and Tamasam. Tamasam is the one that gives us the tiredness and all these. Rajasam is the one which gives us the strength to fight for. Whereas when you talk about Satvik, that is the real quality that we need to build in, especially when we want to sit for meditation and all these. So this particular place where Lord Shiva is, he has everything that represents sattvic character. When you talk about the sattvic characteristic here, there is a very beautiful moon that is shining so bright, and the white light from the moon is filling up this place. So white color from the moon represents sattvic. And Lord Shiva is coming in a beautiful bull, and that is also white in color. He is having a beautiful umbrella made of pearls, that is also white in color. So which represents that Lord Shiva is in the form of sattvic energy or the quality, and he has everything that represents it. So once we go and surrender ourselves, that is where, because Thanjavur, we can split this as Thanjam Ur. Thanjam means the place where the soul can take refuge in. So as a soul, we have to take refuge in Lord Shiva, right? So that is why it is called as Thanjavur. And this particular place has a beautiful compound around it, and this compound that we are talking about is Lord Shiva's grace. So he is protecting us with his grace, and this is the place. He is indicating that this is the place that we can take refuge in, and he is represented in everything in the form of sattvic characteristic to say, don't worry, once you enter this place, you will be given all the happiness and grace that you need. That is what verse number 3 is all about, and the 4th verse. The verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. வாழியம்போதத்து அருகுபாய் விடயம் வரிசையின் வளங்களின் அடுத்த சூழலம் பளிங்கின் பாசலராதி சுடர்விடு மண்டலம் போலிய காழகில் கமழும் மாளிகை மகளிர் கங்குல்வாய் அங்குலி கெழும யாழோலி சிலம்பும் இஞ்சி சொல் தஞ்சை ராசராசேச்சரத்திவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse talks about the beauty, as in the natural resources and the natural beauty of this place. We all know if a place needs to be resourceful or a place needs to be full of, as in a prosperous place, the first thing that we gauge is the water resource. The water resource is the most important one. That is why we often get into problems when the water level or the resource is depleting. And if you look at this place called as Thanjai Rajarajecharam, which is the big temple, this place has a lot of water reservoirs as well as water related areas. Because of that, like rivers and ponds and lakes and all these. Because of that, this entire place is so filled with natural resource. And we all know water is the one which nourishes life, soul, as well as the entire place. So here, the place is so filled with richness in the form of plants, creepers, and trees. So the entire place is so green in color, and because of the plants, there are so many beautiful flowers. And when it is all decorating the place, it looks as if it's like a graffiti. We all know in some places, like for example, if you go to Australia, the graffitis are so beautifully done. If you go to Malaysia, Singapore, on the roads we will be able to see the 3D arts on the walls. They would paint the 3D arts, and if you take a picture in front of that, it will be as real as it's a 3D. They will never believe that it is a painting. To that extent it will be so real. Now imagine Lord Shiva has created these graffitis with the help of natural resources in this place called as Thanjavur. Here he is the Nada Tattvam, and he is beyond the Nada Tattvam. So he is able to we are able to hear soft, nice music played by beautiful instruments by all the young girls in this particular place, which means they are dedicating the music to Lord Shiva, because we all know he loves music. We all know that he surrenders to music, and if you want to really capture Lord Shiva, it's very, very simple. All we have to do is just sing a nice song, or we have to learn to sing and then sing in front of him. That's enough. He will be he will be our slave rather than we being his slave. To that extent, he has a weakness for music. So let's all learn music together, and let's make sure that he is there with us always. He is there with us always, no doubt about it, but let's make it more visible, let's make it more clear that we are able to relate with that. That's what verse number 4 is all about. And the 5th verse, the verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. எவரும் மாமரைகள் எவையும் வானவர்கள் ஈட்டமும் தாழ்த்திரு கமலத்து அவரும் மலவனும் அறிவரும் பெருமை ஆடல் அழல் ஊமிழ் தாழல் பிழம்பர் ஊவரி கடலின் ஒலி செய்மருகில் ஒரு களிற்றரசினதீட்டம் இவரும் மால்வாரை செய் இஞ்சி சோழ் தஞ்சை ராசராசீச்சரத்திவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse gives us a bit of a clarity on how we should be worshipping Lord Shiva. In this verse, the saint says, as in Karuvoor Thevar says, if you look at Vedas, it is trying to search for Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is hidden for it. Same ways, if you look at the Devas, they are also searching for Lord Shiva, and Shiva is not visible to them as well. Even he is not visible to the most important Devas, like, or the deities like Brahma and Vishnu as well. The reason is, when someone is trying to look at Lord Shiva or reach Lord Shiva with something like their own effort, and they are not submitting themselves due to love, but they want to achieve Lord Shiva by some way or the other, either by way of money or by the way of knowledge or some kind of their own initiative rather than pure dedication and pure love. When someone is trying to do so, Lord Shiva will not be visible to them. He will hide himself from those things or the beings who are trying to look at Lord Shiva with their own initiative. Rather, he will be visible only to someone when we are submitting ourselves or we have pure love towards Lord Shiva. To us, to those kind of people, Lord Shiva will be visible. He doesn't care whether we fall under the Devas community or whether we fall under any kind of a deity or even the elite group among the human beings. It doesn't matter. As long as there is love, as long as there is pure devotion, Lord Shiva will be visible. This Lord Shiva resides in the place called as Thanjai Rajarajecharam. We call it as the Tanjore Big Temple. Lord Shiva is in this place, and the entire place is so filled with richness that you could see people traveling in their own vehicles in that road, and because of that sound, the sound is so heavy that it looks as if it's somewhere in the sea. If you can relate with the waves in the sea, it's so loud, right? Similar to that, this entire place is so loud because of the vehicles and the chariots that is going in on the roads. So it's that kind of a place where people with a very good wealth and very good knowledge are living, but only those people who are fully dedicated to Lord Shiva, who has the devotion, they will be able to see Lord Shiva rather than physically seeing it, rather than mentally feeling Lord Shiva. That is what verse number 5 is all about. And the 6th verse, the verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. அருளுமரருளி ஆளுமராள அடிகள் தம் அழகிய வழியும் குருளும் வார்காதும் காட்டியான் பெற்ற குயிலினை மயல் செய்வதழகோ தரளவான் குன்றில் தண்ணிலா ஒளியும் தருகுவால் பெருகுவான் தெருவில் இருளெல்லாம் கிழியும் இஞ்சி சூழ் தஞ்சை ராசராசேச்சரத்திவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is written as if a girl has fallen in love with Lord Shiva, especially when he had shown his eyes, beautiful eyes, and his beautiful ears, and of course his hair. Now, if you can imagine this situation, we will all be able to relate with one of the most important Saiva Siddhantam concept. The Saiva Siddhantam concept talks about two things, which is called as either sound, the world which is made of sound, and the world which is made of light. So everything in this world is sound or light waves related. So in order to see the light, we need the eyes. In order to feel the sound or hear the sound, we need the ears. Imagine the ears and eyes that is given to us, which is only helpful to understand what is there in these worldly things. If we have to go beyond that, if we have to pivot to the next level, what is needed is our sense organs have to move away from what we call it as Pasakaranam or Pasukaranam, and we have to make it as Padikaranam. Padikaranam means the same sense organs, but it is fully taken control by Lord Shiva. So when Lord Shiva is the one who controls our sense organs, obviously whatever we are seeing is going to be divine. This is what our very first two lines talks about. In order to make our sense organs more divine, what we have to do is surrender completely to Lord Shiva in such a way that he can give the ability to our sense organs so that this can transform into our Padikarana. What will happen if this happens? Obviously we know whatever is there around us, whatever we had been entangled with, what we call it as the entanglements as Arnavam, Kanmam, Maya, all these will be gone away from us. We will be separated from this, and we will also move on to the most bright light. As in, when we say bright light, it is moving away from darkness. The entanglements are darkness, Shiva is bright light. So we will get closer to the light, which is getting closer to Shiva. The place called as Tanjore Big Temple, this is the place where all these miracles can happen. That is what verse number 6 is giving us a beautiful lesson on. And the 7th verse, the verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. Tani perum tame mozhudura pirapin talirira pilayudir vendral ninai parum tambal seralin thenum nenjidinduruguvadenno Sunai perum kalangal பொய்கையம் கழுநீர் சூழல் மாளிகை சுடர் வீசும் ஏனை பெரும் மணம் செய் இஞ்சி சூழ் தஞ்சை ராசராசேச்சரத்திவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse gives us a very beautiful analogy, a metaphor for us to understand Saiva Siddhantam. We all know the beautiful flower called as lotus or lily, which grows in the water. The root of these flowers are going to be deep rooted within this soil itself, and however deeper this lake is or this pond is, the stem will grow beyond that, and the flower will be above the water. Similar to what we should be living as well. This water or the clay, muddy land that we are talking about, this is the life or the world that we are all in. We are deep rooted there as part of the soul. But what we have to do is grow beyond these worldly things, and we should start blooming as the real flower. Only then the light as well as the fragrance will start coming out of the flower. As long as we are within the water, it will not be emanating. So what we have to do is grow beyond the water or the worldly things, and we need to start realizing Lord Shiva is the only source for us, or the only person who could revive us from this muddy world. And we all know another metaphor, which is when you look at a tree, there are young sprouted leaves. And from that time, this particular leaf, for it to wither out, it is not going to take a long period. So when you talk about this leaf, the budding leaf, all the way to the time where it is going to wither out, that is what our life is all about. We were born, we had this youth, all along we came into adulthood and all these, and then one fine day we are ready to enter the graveyard, right? But when we are old already, that we are not able to sit, we are not able to stand, we are not able to chant a mantra, when our health has totally deteriorated, at that point in time, if we start thinking about Lord Shiva or start worrying that we did not spend enough time or effort in achieving Lord Shiva's lotus feet, it would be too late. Verse number 7 here talks about that every soul has to get into the path of worship as early as possible. As early as possible. Now, if we are coming in late, no worries. That's also Lord Shiva's grace. Nothing else we can say. So, he has invited us into his path, or he has shown him now only. That's also because of our karma. So, he hid himself from us because of our karmic deeds. So, now he is showing himself. He is making him clear to us. At least now we need to start moving in this path. That is what verse number 7 is giving us a beautiful idea on. And the 8th verse, the verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. பன்னெடும் காலம் பணி செய்து பழையோர் தாம்பலரேம் பலித்திருக்க என்னெடும் கோயில் நெஞ்சு வீற்றிருந்த எளிமையை என்றும் நான் மறக்கேன் மின்னெடும் புருவத்து இளமயிலனையார் விலங்கல் செய்நாடகச்சாலை இன்னடம் பயிலும் இஞ்சி சூழ் தஞ்சை ராசராசேச்சர தேவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse again goes back to the earlier Padikam that we were discussing. It is to say that Lord Shiva is the one, when we talk about being a devotee, being a Shiva devotee or being part of his close circle, it is not because of our capability, rather it is because of his grace on us. We have been talking about this throughout, especially Karuvoor Thevar's Padikams, each and every place he's mentioning this. Today's verse is also resonating the same. He says, there are certain devotees here who are worshipping Lord Shiva for so many years together and births together. They are longing to see Lord Shiva, longing to become his devotee, and longing to just submit themselves to Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva I'm not sure how Lord Shiva has reacted to them, but what he has done to me is something which is very auspicious. He has taken me as his disciple, as his devotee, and he is giving me all the blessings that I'm not sure if I am worth. That is what Karuvoor Thevar is talking about in the first two lines. He says, Lord Shiva is giving him all the blessings that even those devotees who are requesting, who are begging, who are crying to achieve that stage has not received it so far, but Karuvoor Thevar has already received it. It is not because of, when we say, okay, I'm doing a puja today, so I need something in return. That is not, it's not a bartering system, or it is not something like a, like a shop, okay, I give you this, you give me this. It's not a contractual relationship, isn't it? So even when we do something, if we expect something in return, Lord Shiva is not going to be bothered about it. But when we do something without any expectation, that is the most auspicious type of service, and that is what verse number 8 is talking about. And the entire place, called as Thanjai Rajarajecharam, is filled with beautiful music as well as drama kind of places, which means people over there are enjoying their life. They are having good time, enjoying their life, because Lord Shiva is there taking care of all the needs. So why to worry about anything in this world? That is what verse number 8 is all about. And the 9th verse. The verse goes this way. Thirumrai. மங்குல் சுழ்போதின் ஒழிவர நிறைந்து வஞ்சக நெஞ்சக தோழிப்பார் அங்கழல் சுடராம் அவர் கிளவீனல் அலர் கதிரனையர் வாழியரோ பொங்கெழில் திருநீர் அழி போசி வனப்பில் புனல் துளும்பாவிர் சடை மொழுப்பர் எங்களுக்கினியர் இஞ்சி சொல் தஞ்சை ராசராசீச்சர தேவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is a very practical verse. Imagine, let's look at the metaphor first and then we will look at the meaning of this. Let's imagine we have a very beautiful bright sunshine. I know some of the countries we don't even see that, but imagine, when you go to Asia kind of places, the sun is really bright. So when we are imagining this sun, just look at sun. Are we able to see the sun? Yes, we are. But at the same time, imagine we have a cataract in our eyes. Obviously, we won't be able to see the sunlight. Something will be like, there's a screen and you will not be able to see clearly. The vision will not be very clear. Same ways, imagine milk. Milk is so sweet. We all know it is sweet. But if I have a health issue, sometimes the milk will also, as in my body is very acidic. If I taste the milk, it will become a little bit sour. The soury taste will come. Which is to say, the problem is not with the sun or it is not with the milk, but it is with our body. It's exactly what analogy we are talking about here. Lord Shiva is there in every place. You can't even say he's here or he's not here. He's 100%, not even a nano millimeter or centimeter that you will be able to see a place where he doesn't exist. He exists everywhere. But what we are trying to do is, sometimes we are able to feel him, sometimes we are able to relate with him, but sometimes we put up a very hard curtain in front. The curtain is made of iron. Imagine when there's an iron shield in between us and Lord Shiva, do you think we can see him? We can't. But is he there? He is there. But what happens is we have put up a curtain. Sometimes we do put up a muslin cloth kind of a curtain. Perfect. We will be able to see him. Now, the problem is with us. That's what they say. You will be able to see Lord Shiva provided you are ready for it, you are open to it, and you are able to embrace the grace. But most of the time when we are not doing that, that is where Lord Shiva hides himself. It is not that he hides, but we are not making it visible. That is the problem that we are facing as of today. Even today we will be able to relate with these examples, right, with these experiences rather. This is what verse number 9 says. And verse number 9 also says that he is the only person who can give us the real sweet of our life. Why are we being born? What is the purpose of our life? What is this life all about? Because we all know the life not only gives us sugar, it also gives us sour at times. But when Lord Shiva is with us, we will never feel the sour taste, but we will only feel the sweetness. That is why we call him as the sweet of sweets, Deva Deva. And this is what we are talking about in verse number 9, where Lord Shiva is in the place called as Thanjore Big Temple. We call it as Thanjai Rajarajecharam. And the 10th verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. தனியரத்தனை ஓராயிர வருமாம் தன்மயர் என் பயத்தினராம் கனியரத்தருந்தீங்கரும்பர்வன் போரி நூல் கட்டியரட்ட அறமேர்தர் புனிதர் பொற்கழலர் பூரி சடமகுடர் புண்ணியர் பொய்யிலமெய்யர்க்கு இனியரத்தனையும் இஞ்சி சொல் தஞ்சை ராசராசீச்சர தேவர்க்கே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse talks about Lord Shiva's all his characteristics and attributes. if you look at Lord Shiva, he is beyond any definition. We can't have any kind of a definition applicable for Lord Shiva. He is beyond all those. But at the same time, for us to relate, for us to understand, for us to go ahead and worship him, to move forward, we have defined certain boundaries. Those boundaries are called as 8 forms. We call it as Tanvayatanadal, Perarul Udaimai. We will talk about those in a different manner, but there are totally 8 characteristics that we talk about for Lord Shiva. This one verse covers all the 8 characteristics. They say, he is the one who showers grace to all the souls. He is the one who cannot be bound by any kind of definition. So he has his own definition. He doesn't know what is sin. He is so pure, the purest of the purest form, that he doesn't know what is what we call it as sin. He is also someone who gives the soul all the sweetness possible. Something like sugarcane, something like the fruit nectar. He is the one who gives all the sweetness to the soul, to say the soul has to be matured enough. This Lord Shiva resides in the place called as Gangai Konda Soleicharam, place in the place called as Thanjai Rajarajecharam, which is also called as the Tanjore Big Temple. This place is one of the significance, as we said, it's the significance of Lord Shiva. Once you go there, you will be able to visualize the magnificent and at the same time the biggest temple, and you can visualize how Lord Shiva would be in Kailash. That is what verse number 10 is all about. And the finale verse number 11 goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. Sarala mandara shanbagavagula sandana nandana vanatin irul viri molupin inji sul Thanjai rasa charati varai arumarundi allal thir Karuvoor arainda sonmalai raindin பொருள் மருந்துடையோர் சிவபதம் என்னும் பொன்னெடும் குன்றுடையோரே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse is also one of the beautiful verse in Tamil. It gives us the classic beauty of Tamil. You look at the way how it is coined. Sarala mandara shanbaga vagula sandana nandana vanatin. If you read it, it's a proper sandam. If you look at it itself, the way how they have coined the words, it's a beautiful example for how rich Tamil language is and what kind of a relaxation Tamil language can give us when we are able to read this. Not only this, he is also saying, basically when you talk about a soul, we always have a question. If I'm going to read this Padigam, what is the benefit? That is why this is called as Palashruti, which means, in Tamil we call it as Thirukadaikappu, which means if someone is reading this Padigam, what is the benefit they are going to get? So if I'm going to read this Padigam, what is the benefit? That is going to be given clearly in this finale verse. He says, don't worry, read this. If you read it, you will get something called as Pada Mukti. Literally translated as Mukti means realization. So Lord Shiva is going to give us the realization. And this realization is classified into 2 segments. One is we will be closer to Lord Shiva. Another one is we will be one and the same with Shiva. That is what we call it as Padamutti. Padamutti means the surrounding. We will be in the vicinity of Lord Shiva, either in the form of the same form as Lord Shiva like Nambi Arurar had, or we can talk about Appar Peruman, who was in the place, he was there in the place where Lord Shiva resides, or he was actually propagating that kind of a path. And when you talk about Kari Pillayar, he was propagating the path of someone who can stay very close to Lord Shiva. These 3 are classified as Padamutti. Another one is Paramutti, that is what we will be one and the same with Lord Shiva. Now this classification is what we should be clear about, and this Padigam, if we read this, we will be in the vicinity of Lord Shiva. That is being clearly given here. Not only that, Karuvoor Thevar is also mentioning about him. He says, I, Karuvoor Thevar, I have taken the best medicine in this world. The biggest disease that we have is birth. In order to get rid of this birth, all we need is a medicine. This medicine should be in the form that it eradicates all our karmic deeds now, and also it has to go back to our Sanchita karma and burn it all. What medicine has that capacity other than the 5-letter syllable, the mantra Shivaya Nama, Namah Shivaya? None, right? So Namah Shivaya or Shivaya Nama is the mantra that was given to Karuvoor Thevar. Once he started reciting that, he is so confident that he is going to be broken away from this birth and death vicious cycle. That is why he said, Allal Tir Karuvoor. Allal means that is one of the vicious cyclic pain that we always go through. And he says, I'm free of it. I've been freed from this birth and death life cycle, which means I'm not going to be born again, because I was given the best medicine in this world, which is called as Shivaya Nama. That concludes verse number 11 for us. So let's recite this entire Padigam and also keep chanting Shivaya Nama, so that Lord Shiva will give us also the grace, and he will make sure that we are relieved from this birth and death cycle, the vicious cycle. I'll come back again with the next Padigam very soon. Until then, Shivaya Nama, Tiruchitrambalam.